Hello and thanks for joining us from our studios in Israel. Coming up in today's newscast, 2 more Israeli security officers have been wounded in Palestinian terror attacks. The Israeli Prime Minister vows to boost security around the country, and an Israeli power woman is recognized for her hard work. I'm Natasha Kirchuk here with the latest news in Israel. Israelis are enduring their 4th straight day of terrorism, and this time a young female police officer is fighting for her life after she and her partner were the victims of a vicious stabbing attack outside Jerusalem's Old City this morning. Their knife-wielding assailant sneaked up behind them by the Herod's Gate and began stabbing them before being shot and critically wounded by a male officer.
A short while ago at the Herod's Gate on the outskirts of the Old City, a Palestinian terrorist stabbed 2 Israeli officers, one of them female, one of them male. The female officer was injured seriously and taken to hospital, being treated at the moment. The second officer was injured moderately and also being taken to hospital. The terrorist was shot by our police officer, who responded immediately to a life-threatening situation. The area around the Old City of Jerusalem is closed off and heightened security continues in the area.
The female police officer in her 20s suffered with a serious neck wound and lost consciousness. She was immediately taken to a nearby hospital and placed on a respirator. The 45-year-old male officer was also hospitalized for multiple stab wounds to the upper body, but never passed out. The terrorist has been identified as a 20-year-old Arab resident of East Jerusalem. Since Friday, there have now been 5 stabbings, a car ramming, and a rock-throwing attack. Another potential fatal assault was prevented last night when a 12-year-old Palestinian approached a border police base near the Jewish-Vered Jericho settlement. He had a knife, 2 firebombs, and a small Palestinian flag in his possession, and has confessed to planning a deadly assault. The surge in violence comes just after Muslims concluded their holiday of Eid al-Adha, and Israeli military officials are warning that Palestinians remain intent and highly motivated to attack the Israeli public. Since October of last year, 35 Israelis and 4 foreign nationals, including 2 Americans, 1 Eritrean, and a Sudanese, have been murdered. 227 Palestinians and 1 Jordanian died during that same period while carrying out attacks or clashing with Israeli security forces. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is now responding to the bloodshed by ordering that national security is boosted to defend the public. He's vowing that the country's security forces are ready to protect the Israeli people as the Jewish high holidays quickly approach.
לקראת חגי תשרי, רף הסיכון עולה, צה"ל והמשטרה מאבדים כוחות, גורמי הביטחון נמצאים בערנות מוגברת, ואני אפגוש אותם היום כדי להבטיח שנהיה מוכנים להגן על אזרחינו בתקופה הרגישה הזו. במקביל איננו נשואות גם לצפון, לא ניתן לפתוח ברמת הגולן חזית נוספת נגד מדינת ישראל, לא שם ולא בשום גזרה אחרת.
The Prime Minister is also authorizing Knesset Speaker Yuli Edelstein to continue enforcing the injunctive on all Israeli lawmakers that forbids them to visit the Temple Mount. The holy site in Jerusalem's Old City has often been a flashpoint of violence because of persisting Palestinian claims that Israel wants to alter the status quo. The Netanyahu government has adamantly and repeatedly dismissed these allegations as lies. Jews and Christians are prohibited from praying on the Mount out of fear of antagonizing Muslims, who are allowed to worship at the holy site. The Temple Mount ban for legislators and ministers was first imposed in October 2015, when this latest wave of Palestinian violence, that some people have been calling a third intifada, erupted in full force. It was last extended in June. Likud Knesset member Yehuda Glick has responded to the latest directive by saying that it's very unfortunate that lawmakers are forced to pay the price for such acts of incitement. The Israeli Prime Minister says he's about to embark on a trip to the United Nations headquarters in New York, where he will do everything he can to address the needs of the Israeli people on an international platform.
השבוע אצא לעצרת האו"ם, אפגוש שם מנהיגים חשובים בעולם, לרבות ממדינות אפריקה. וכמובן שבעצרת האו"ם, בעצרת הכללית של האו"ם, אציג, כפי שאני עושה כל שנה, את דברה של ישראל בפני האומות. תודה רבה לכם.
A lot of people believe there would be a lot less animosity if Israelis and Arabs could understand one another better. Now, researchers at the Tel Aviv University say they've come up with a program that can actually help bridge the divisions between the two sectors. The Extended Class Exchange Program involves two separate studies of nearly 600 third and fourth graders. The Israeli and Palestinian school children were brought together at bi-monthly gatherings to interact with each other directly, all in a structured context led by facilitators. The curriculum was specifically aimed at eliminating stereotyping, prejudice, and discrimination that often lead to hostilities between ethnic groups. Art classes and other activities sought to promote mutual respect and acceptance of the other. The children also engaged in empathy training so they could become more sensitive to other people's feelings and beliefs and improve their own ability to keep situations in perspective. The study was led by an Israeli and an Arab who are doctors at the university's Stress, Crisis, and Trauma program of the Bob Chappell School of Social Work. They say they were successful in creating sustainable tolerance while combating racism and prejudice, with long-term positive effects, both inside and outside the classroom. Their findings were just published in last month's issue of the Journal of School Psychology. One of the most contentious issues in the 2016 U.S. presidential race is whether or not to accept refugees from Syria. But how much of a threat would an influx of Syrian refugees truly be for the West? ILTV's Aaron Viner sat down with Professor Harold Rode, who served as an Islamist affairs advisor to the U.S. Department of Defense for nearly 3 decades.
The way when Muslims in general move to a new place, they're very quiet, they're very insular, they don't bother anybody. And the question comes, though, when there is a critical mass and when there is a large community, they start making demands. And we're seeing this in Michigan right now in the United States, that there won't be pork served, for example, at McDonald's or in schools and things like that. So the answer is, in the beginning, not a big threat, but they will, with time, what history shows is that they do this over and over again. They're quiet until they reach the critical mass and they make demands. And that's what's happening in Germany and France as well right now.
In fact, we are seeing a Muslim majority in certain areas of England and France and even Belgium who are demanding the imposition of Sharia law. Do you think that Western Europe is on the cusp of some sort of an Islamic conquest?
Well, we could be. And the question now is, does the West have the willingness to stand up for itself, defend its culture? And only then is there hope. If we continue the decline that we have right now, both in Europe and in the United States, where the leaders no longer believe in themselves and their culture, based on the values of Mount Sinai, the values of Christianity and Judaism come from the same place, Mount Sinai. If we don't know who we are in the West, it's over. Is it tomorrow? No, but 20, 30 years from now, yes.
Let's now talk about Israel's situation. In fact, in Gaza, it's run by Islamist leaders, Hamas, and then just over the northern border, there's Hezbollah, of course. Do you think that there's any risk of any sort of an Islamist insurgency from within Israel?
Well, as long as the people in Israel understand that the authorities are prepared to do what is necessary to keep them under control, it can be managed. The problem is the internet, that a lot of the young people are radicalized on the internet. And that's something that's very difficult to control. But frankly, so far, the Israeli government has done a very good job of keeping this problem under control. When you ban the movement, it's just going to reemerge as another movement. So the Northern League, Riyad Saleh, if they are declared illegal, they'll reemerge in some other form. And I am confident that the authorities in Israel know what to do to monitor these things and to keep it under control.
Let's bring our discussion now back to the Syrian refugee crisis. What do you make of the way that Israel has been handling wounded Syrians who are hurt in a civil war, making their way to the borders of the Jewish state for medical treatment?
Well, Israel has to have a balance here. Israeli culture, is based on Jewish culture, which means we must be compassionate. And if these people need help, I think it's wonderful that Israel is offering the medical assistance to the people it has. But the Israeli policy vis-a-vis Syria is, I think, superb. Why? The place is falling apart. All sorts of people are shooting and killing at each other. And Israel is calm. When, God forbid, there is a missile which is shot at Israel, Israel responds quickly and massively. There is no such thing as proportional response. This is an obsession of the West. Proportional response is deadly. The other side, whoever they may be, must understand that Israel will do whatever is necessary to defend itself. And Israel's doing a wonderful job.
Germany has recently come under fire for failing to seek justice for Holocaust survivors after consistently delaying trials with elderly Nazis. Now it looks like that may change because a 95-year-old former medic at the Auschwitz death camp is set to return to court today. Hubert Zafke is wheelchair-bound and his case has been suspended 4 times since his first hearing in February, all because of health concerns. His trial will most likely be one of the last in Germany to be linked to the Holocaust.
Die Nebenkläger und auch die Staatsanwaltschaft haben heute den Vorsitzenden Richter wegen Befangenheit abgelehnt, weil dieser Richter nicht mehr unparteiisch ist, sondern sich einseitig auf die Seite des Angeklagten geschlagen hat, und zwar in dem Sinne geschlagen hat, dass er sagt, gegen sämtliche Rechtsprechung, dieser Tatvorwurf ist nicht berechtigt, und er versucht dieses Verfahren dadurch, dass er die Verhandlungsunfähigkeit herbeiredet, obwohl das Oberlandesgericht sie längst festgestellt hat, dass der Mann verhandlungsfähig ist, dieses Verfahren zu sabotieren. Und das bedeutet, dass unsere Mandanten wissen, dass sie von diesem Vorsitzenden Richter nie Gerechtigkeit bekommen.
The former Nazi worked as a paramedic in Auschwitz in 1944 from August to September, and he's charged with being the accessory to the murder of almost 4,000 people. During the month in which Zafke worked at Auschwitz, at least 14 deportation trains arrived at the extermination camp, some from places as far away as France, Austria, and the Netherlands. Zafke is denying the charges against him, saying he only treated wounded soldiers and members of the SS, but the prosecution's office says he was aware of the camp's function as a facility for mass murder by simply joining its structure. And they're accusing Zafke of consciously participating and speeding up the deaths of thousands of people. If convicted, the 95-year-old could face up to 15 years in prison, but his trial has been postponed because of his health problems, leading prosecutors to claim the judge is being biased.
Also er ist eindeutig nicht verhandlungsfähig, das ist das Ergebnis. Wir mussten alle paar Minuten unterbrechen und bei einem so schweren Vorwurf, nämlich der Beihilfe zur Ermordung von 3.681 Menschen, muss man schon diese Formalitäten und auch diese Verfahrensvoraussetzungen wie eben die Verhandlungsfähigkeit ganz gründlich prüfen. Und im Gegensatz zur Staatsanwaltschaft und zur Nebenklage sind wir der Auffassung, das kann man gar nicht exakt genug prüfen. Dieser Angeklagte ist 96 Jahre alt. Der wird in 14 Tagen wieder 96. Keiner im Saal hat schon mal, kein Anwalt von den Kollegen hier, einen 96-Jährigen in so einer Situation vertreten. Kein Staatsanwalt, kein Nebenkläger kennt sowas und auch kein Gericht. Denn üblicherweise werden in humanistischen Gerichtsstrukturen Leute, die knapp 100 sind, nicht vor Gericht gestellt. Und das ist das Problem dieses Verfahrens.
Germany has been holding several trials for suspects of Nazi crimes over the course of the last year. Earlier this year, a 94-year-old former Auschwitz guard Reinhold Hanning was convicted to 5 years in prison for the murder of at least 170,000 people. Last year, 94-year-old Oskar Groening, known as a bookkeeper of Auschwitz, was also convicted of being an accessory to the murder of 300,000 people in the camp. Their cases are among the last to be linked to the Holocaust in Germany, and just last week, a 92-year-old woman who worked as a radio operator at Auschwitz was ruled as unfit to stand trial on charges that she was accessory to the murder of 260,000 people at the Nazi death camp. Israel is full of power women, and now it looks like one of them is being recognized for her hard work. The famous Fortune magazine has selected the CEO and president of Israel's Bank Leumi as one of the most powerful women in the world. Mrs. Rakefet Rusak Aminoach is the only Israeli to make it onto the list, and was ranked 43 out of 50 power women, many of which hail from countries like the United Kingdom, Switzerland, and China. Rusak Aminoach is being celebrated for her success in leading Israel's bank Leumi through tightening banking regulations. Under her lead, the bank experienced a 73% increase in profits to $730 million. Leumi responded by announcing the early retirement of 700 of its employees, despite heavy criticism from labor groups. Leumi will now be shuttering some of its branches and will launch a fully mobile bank called Pepper later this year. Unlike top CEOs of banks worldwide, Rusak Aminoach has even had to deal with a law aimed at capping bankers' salaries. So although her salary certainly seems high enough, she only takes home $2.1 million a year for all that hard work. Some other notable Jews that made it onto this year's Fortune list included Facebook COO Sheryl Sandberg, Modal's international CEO Irene Rosenfeld, and the Israeli-born Oracle CEO Safra Katz. What do Moroccan rock, rumba, and groovy Greek music have in common? Well, one Israeli band called the Bouzouki Groove are bringing all these musical styles together right here in the Holy Land. Let's check out a new single they just released that even incorporates Coldplay's famous song, Clocks.
כן.
Dionysius Theodoro and Itzik Zarum are responsible for forming this special alternative Greek band in Israel, and they're right here in the studio to tell us about it. Thanks so much for coming in, guys.
Nice to see you again, Natasha.
Yes, you were here a couple of months ago, and now there's a whole different music initiative that you're going to tell us about that you're doing. Tell us about this song, mix of Coldplay, Greek, and everything was going on here. How did you come up with this?
Well, Itzik and I started working together about 5 years ago, and we're obviously aware of the love that the Israeli people have for Greek music. So I'm from Cyprus, and I've been performing since I was 11. So we just started putting a show together that incorporates all the most popular Greek songs for the Israeli audience. And Itzik, maybe we can tell something about your musical background so people can understand how we sort of
connected. Well, I come from modern jazz music and flamenco. My father is a flamenco artist, and when I knew him, I loved the music. I loved the Greek music, and we started, brainstorming together, and thinking about other ways to use the bouzouki. The sound of the bouzouki and his playing, And
so the bouzouki, for those who don't know, it's that special guitar that
it's a Greek instrument. It's a national instrument of Greece. And
it's not a guitar, obviously, but it's similar in this sense.
It's a string instrument.
Right, exactly.
But I think we basically brought our own interpretation to the music, and we just wanted to feel comfortable performing it our way and not to copy some kind, not to copy the original, or not to be sort of influenced by the original in a way that limits us. And it just naturally developed. And this clip that you've just seen is just a sort of, I think it's a combination of 5 years of working together. And then Itzik had the idea of maybe bringing some non-Greek music into the repertoire, and
well, yeah, and everybody knows Coldplay, obviously. Israelis love Coldplay, and Clocks is specifically a very famous song. So it was interesting how you guys did that transition. What was it like to record that, you know, out in Yafo?
Lots of fun.
Well, it's interesting, you know. If you think about the bouzouki, the sound of the bouzouki, and also the interesting playing of Dionysus, when like Coldplay was stuck in my head, the Clocks, you know, the sound of it, and I could really see him playing it, and we tried it, and it was fantastic, you know, from the very first time we played it, and it's beautiful. So
we're having a lot of fun, because also the Israeli audience, the people that really enjoy the Greek music, they enjoy our interpretation of the music. And also what's interesting is that people that don't like Greek music, or they're not interested in Greek music, and when they come to see us, they suddenly say, oh, I never liked Greek music, but these interpretations are really interesting. It's jazzy, it's rocky, it's bluesy, it's just... it's very energetic and
well, you know, I love Greek music, and it's obviously very popular here in Israel. Why do you guys think that is?
Well, I think it's very similar to it's Middle Eastern, first of all. It's Middle Eastern scales and rhythms. So it's people like to dance and to have fun, and they're also rhythms that are very similar to Hasidic music and to Jewish music, Gypsy music, hora. So it's fun music, and it's sameach. You know, sameach is happiness and joy, and people enjoy that. They just enjoy it.
Yeah, and I mean, if you just walk around Tel Aviv, even go into Old Yafo, you can see a lot of places where they're playing Greek music and people are dancing outside. Definitely. So you guys obviously aren't, you know, the first band here that's somehow
it goes
incorporated.
Way back.
Yeah,
of course. I think the first Greek song was translated into Hebrew, I think, before the establishment of the state. The first song was translated in 1947. And then since then, many Israeli artists have taken Greek melodies and compositions and added Hebrew lyrics to them from then until today. And obviously Ari San, people who know Ari San, who was here in the 50s and had a really legendary career. And Trifonas Poliker, Yuda Poliker also. So it's just, Greek music has always been part of the culture here, the musical culture here, definitely. Definitely.
It's interesting too, because there isn't necessarily a huge Jewish Greek population. There is one, but it's not massive, and yet this music has somehow, you know, played such a big part in the Israeli music scene. Now, you guys have performed internationally, gone to a lot of different types of audiences. What is it like to perform for an Israeli audience? Do you see a resemblance between Israeli culture and Greek culture apart from the music?
Right. I've never met an audience like this before. I mean, I've performed in many different countries from a young age. I started performing when I was 11, in England, in Greece, in New York. But there's something very supportive here of the people here. And I think there's something in the culture that people strive to be happier. They strive to connect to their happiness. And it's a real kind of... striving to get to the point of being happy, to put everything behind and just overcome and to just be happy and to just dance and to just sing. And there's a culture here of singing together and being together. And I see all kinds of audiences, young and all ages, and they just connect and they're dancing together and singing together. And there's and I've never seen anything like that.
It's kind of like your story in a way. You told me earlier that you guys met in a music store, in your music store, right? What is that story?
Well, it was how long? 14 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, I arrived in 2002, and I went into Itzik's music store to buy some strings for bouzouki, and I met his father, and then after I met his father, I met Itzik. And it took us a while to start discussing performing together. It took us a long time, about 9 years.
5 years ago.
5 years ago we started. But it's just I think there's a love for culture here, a love for music,
openness
to different styles.
Yeah, definitely.
And, yeah, openness, definitely. Openness is.
We perform to many crowds, you know, even to crowds of Israeli folk, so Shira B'tzibur, you know, that people come and sing the Israeli songs, and they stay, they love it, and they even dance in the end of the show, and it's
even very old audiences, like 90 years old.
Yeah,
even, you know? Like really, like, and they're dancing, and they're just connecting to that happiness, connecting to that joy. I think the culture here, Israeli culture, is a culture of happiness and a culture. It's a very positive culture. It's a culture that supports creativity and success.
Well, when you say creativity, you can certainly see that in the music video that we watched by you guys earlier. It's beautiful, the music you guys are creating, and I hope that I can eventually go and see you guys perform. If you want to check out Bouzouki Groove, the band will be performing on October 21st at Ha'ozen Bar in Tel Aviv. For more information, go to bouzoukigroove.com. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.
Wow.
Thanks, Natasha.
And now for our Hebrew word of the day. Rhythm is something you either have or don't have, but when you do have it all over. So today's word is ketzev, which means rhythm in Hebrew. They say rhythm is the soul of life, so it's no surprise that Israelis love to lirkod lefi haketzev, or dance to the beat. But it's not only Israelis that like to live their lives according to the ketzev. Rhythm is our universal mother tongue, and almost anybody can understand the beat. Now, if you don't have a sense of ketzev yourself, don't worry. Here in Israel, trance music is a huge hit, and as long as you know how to tagbir et hakatzev, or just move your butt, you'll fit right in. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the weather forecast. Tuesday is expected to be sunny with a high of 90 degrees. The sun should stay out through Wednesday with the temperature going up to 91. All right, everybody, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.77 shekels to the American dollar. Remember to sign up for our daily newsletter at iltv.tv, and don't forget to check out our next update at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Thanks for watching, and see you tonight.